because what you, the unsung heroes in the wastewater industry, do matters. Every Wednesday, join me, Suzanne Chin Taylor, the DooDoo Diva, a longtime veteran of the wastewater, trenchless, and civil infrastructure industry, as I interview guests who are making an impact on how we manage and operate systems for conveying and treating wastewater. I'll also be speaking with representatives of organizations that are utilizing disruptive or new technologies, and executives who are going to share how to be successful and sustainable in our vital industry. So whether you want to learn about the latest trends in technology in treatment or trenchless, gain tips on training and retaining great talent, or simply how to be more efficient, productive, or profitable, this podcast is for you. Well, hi, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the DooDoo Diva Smells Like Money podcast. And I am so excited that I've got the opportunity to have Chris Parker from APT back on the show with us. Chris is just absolutely a fountain of information in regards to the trenchless industry. And today we're going to be talking about an exciting new technology that is going to help save cities tons of money and also solve that very difficult problem that we don't really want to think about too much, but we know it's there, and that is I&I, or inflow and infiltration. So Chris, we were talking before we started today, and I really wanted you to share with the audience what you shared with me. It was kind of a staggering statistic on the percentage and the amount of I&I that is coming into systems. And it's not from places that one would think. So, share with us what you shared with me a few minutes ago.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. As it relates to I&I, it's very interesting. Depending on what study you read, which we all know, a different study can come out any day of the week nowadays. But depending on what case study you read, according to one of the latest EPA reports, 75% of I&I in any given system is actually coming from the lateral sanitary sewer pipes.
Wow. So is that coming from the area that is in the jurisdiction of the city or from the homeowner side?
It varies. It varies greatly. And one of the core issues that most municipalities have is the inability to really address beyond the property line. Either they don't want to get on the property, they don't have a proper lateral program in place, which is normally the case. But I think some entities are really starting to see, after spending millions and millions of dollars on mainline rehab without much reduction in I&I, that they need to take it a step further. They need to investigate the laterals. And there are some entities that really have been proactive in that, to start to establish ordinances and local programs to establish a lateral rehab program.
Yeah, you were talking about that, I guess you would call it eminent domain,
Mm-hmm.
and how they're able to do this with getting the cooperation of the homeowners or the property owners, but making it so it's not so painful for them or making them feel like they're really cracking the whip. Can you tell me a little bit about that one entity you were talking about that had some great success with doing that?
Sure. So there's actually, in Florida, there's quite a few that are now actively looking either at an ordinance change or implementing a program. There's a few that have done pilot programs. I'll use City of St. Pete as one, that they actually had a dig and replace program, believe it or not, to where they were incentivizing homeowners upwards of $8,800 per lateral to simply contract their local plumber to dig and replace, which does nothing to really solve infiltration. They might have a watertight connection to begin with, but we all know as time goes by, they're going to start to have infiltration again. So what APT proposes and what the technology out there allows us to do is create what we call a monolithic repair, or a seamless repair all the way from the main line to the house. And so other entities like Miami-Dade County and Pinellas County are really starting to see the value in lateral pipelining and how that can really extend the life and, more importantly, reduce their overall budget, because they're spending millions of dollars a year on treating the cyanide. And I think that it's finally starting to showcase the available technology in the marketplace has finally caught up.
So that was the thing you kind of alluded to before we came on the air about this brand new technology. Really exciting. And I'm kind of a techno geek when it comes to trenchless. I love hearing about new stuff that's happening in the market. Tell us about this, because it sounds like this is going to be something that's really going to have an impact. We hear that term disruptive, and in a way, it may be disruptive in the way that we look at trenchless for laterals. And it just sounded really, really exciting. So tell me about this.
Sure. So APT has partnered with a company called Intercure Technologies, and they have developed and now offer some lateral lining technology that is really revolutionary. And part of what makes it revolutionary is, number one, it's UV light curing. So there's no type of heat or ambient temperature to worry about in the curing methodology. But more importantly, you can actually line the lateral prior to the main line being rehabilitated. And that's really where the game changer is. So if you look at one entity in Louisiana actually spent upwards of $400 million on a mainline rehabilitation program and saw almost no reduction in their I&I. They pivoted and started doing a lateral program and immediately saw reductions in their I&I. So if you can imagine being able to move and do the laterals first, instead of just unnecessarily lining mainline pipes that might be in good condition, you're able to spend those budgetary dollars more wisely to truly address the infiltration. So as I started the podcast with that statistic of 75%, why not attack that 75% instead of that 25% from your main lines? So it really allows entities to pivot and focus on that asset that is costing them the most money, which is the lateral. So using the Intercure Technologies method, what we do is it's a 2-layer fiberglass wrap. And in between those 2 layers, it actually has a silicone ring that has a stainless steel wire embedded in it, so that when you install this prior to the main line being lined, it fully addresses that annular space. It offers a full seal, independently tested and verified to PSI pressure up to 500, which is well beyond any type of groundwater an entity is going to face. And again, this is all being done prior to the main line being rehabilitated. And we can then shoot that lateral from the main line all the way up to the structure of the house, creating that monolithic system.
So would this be something that the city would be paying for, or would be paid in conjunction with the property owner? Because obviously it's going to be from the right of way into the property line. How is that going to work?
So it varies, actually. So in Florida, I'll give you a Miami-Dade County's analysis on it, is that in their case, if you look at what they spend on infiltration, it makes sense for them to actually pay for the lateral in totality, as opposed to seeking any type of rate adjustment or anything like that from their taxpayer base. And again, the way they look at that is they're spending anywhere from $4,500 to $5,500 to treat a 3-gallon per minute leak in a lateral, which in a coastal community, 3-gallon per minute leak is not uncommon. And so in that case, using that one lateral as an example, if you took an average cost for the entire approach, entire program, if you will, at $7,000, their return on investment on that one lateral over a 10-year period is well over $500,000. And so they're getting a 540% return on investment for that one lateral. Now you extrapolate that out down a whole street or an entire basin, they can essentially choose to not expand plant capacity, in my opinion, which is billions of dollars in savings over the lifetime of the product.
Oh, absolutely. So if you do the laterals first, if in the circumstance where the main line has to also be rehabilitated, or the manholes, how does this new technology integrate, or does it play nice? Is anything special going to have to be done to come in and reline? Does it need to be a special material, or is most of the CIPP, the options that are available, is it going to be compatible with this new technology?
Absolutely. There's no special materials required for the main line. There's no special circumstances that have to be deployed there. So if we were to come in and say do a street and do all the laterals first, and a year goes by and the entity decides, well, you know what, we want to go ahead and line the main line as well, they would follow traditional processes. The beauty of the material that we're using for the lateral, again, with it being UV cured, it allows it to be a much thinner material, but have a much higher strength rating than traditional felt. So from that aspect, it's a full structural fix at that lateral connection. You line right over it. There is no speed bump or hump with a traditional full wrap at the lateral like the older approaches. And then finally, I mentioned that ring earlier that has that stainless steel wire embedded in it. When a cutter operator goes to reinstate that lateral, they'll be able to reinstate that almost perfectly, because it will be an indicator that for them to not overcut. So it ensures that lateral is properly reinstated every time.
You beat me to it. I was going to ask you, well, how does that play in for the lateral reinstatement? So, wow. And the average life expectancy or asset life expectancy on this technology?
Sure. So we feel, based on the structural characteristics of the materials being used, the resin system that we're using as well, that it's well beyond a 50-year life.
Okay. Is this material much like the other type of UV cured, where it's wet out at the factory and sealed, so the effects of any, potential, I know it's a big buzzword about styrene emissions or contaminants or anything like that, does it fall into that category?
It does. It is wetted out at the factory. We do that for both a quality control standard, and more importantly, we've chosen to go with a non-VOC cold cure resin system, so that there are no styrenes whatsoever in the product that we use. And that cold cure resin system ensures that we have no shrinkage during installation, which is typically an issue with some of the ambient cured type of methods.
And what size laterals can this rehabilitate, from what to what in diameter?
Right now, we're doing 4-inch and 6-inch laterals, with plans to be able to do 8-inch laterals in the near future.
Okay. How long does a typical rehabilitation on a single lateral take after you've done, your cleaning and your prep, on average?
Sure, that's a great question. Because of using the UV curing technology, it's extremely fast. So on average, if we were doing the full connection seal at the main line, and let's say it's a 25-foot lateral, we can be in and out of that lateral completely within about 30 minutes.
How much prep does it take? I take it that you are doing some CCTV inspection, so you know what you're heading into in case there's bends or transitions and things of that nature. How does it handle things like that?
Sure. So the way we've structured the program for APT is we call it the Lateral Monolithic Repair Program. We really wanted to make it all encompassing, to make it extremely easy on customers. So what we do is we conduct a full PACP inspection of the main line. And then we also do a full LACP inspection of every lateral pre-rehab. And then we go back and obviously do that post process as well after we do the actual rehab. Now, of course, that includes cleaning, reinstatements, anything else that we would possibly need to do as part of that rehab program. But again, it's all encompassing. We give all clients a pre and post video. And in our case, we actually data archive that for about 5 years and give them online access to all their pre and post videos.
Okay, so I take it that in the case where the municipality's picking up the tab on it, is the homeowner allowed to get a copy of that too, for when they're going to be maybe selling their home, to be able to show, potential homeowner, hey, we had our line rehabbed?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's very easy for us to share that data. It's literally just an email address and a click away. So we would absolutely be able to share that with a homeowner. And it's important to notate too, these entities, the way that they're approaching this is really an opt-out program with their taxpayers. So everyone's being notified that a lateral rehab program is taking place. Homeowners have 14 days to opt out. If they so choose to do so, then basically what happens then, they become fully liable for that lateral. So any homeowner that opts out is pretty much opting into a future repair. So I don't know who would want to opt out of that program.
Right. Well, I know that you're a regional, contractor and technology provider. And so I know you're doing this in the states that you operate, but is this technology going to be available in other parts of the country? You're not an exclusive on this, right?
No, not an exclusive all. There's availability throughout the U.S. as far as I'm aware with Intercure Technologies.
Okay.
We aligned with them because they are based in Florida, so it was the right choice for us. And we did evaluate a lot of manufacturers and players in the lateral lining space. And based on where we're at today and where we plan to head, they were the right choice for us.
Well, just from what you've been sharing, it sounds like not only is it going to be good for you and your customer base, but this is something that maybe other municipalities and contractors around the country should also look at as an alternative, trenchless method. I love the idea, and especially when you explain the percentages of how much that city is going to get back in savings. And I know because, permit and plant capacity is, the whole thought is, oh, we're getting I&I. What's the solution? Well, we'll just build a bigger plant.
Build a bigger plant. That's always the go-to.
That may not be bigger, better. Bigger, better is not always necessarily the right solution.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Thank you so much for sharing this with me. And really food for thought. I'll be excited to hear more about this and see more about this and appearing in the news about how people are using this technology and the problems that it's solving. So yeah, thank you again for your time.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me, the DooDoo Diva, on this week's episode of Smells Like Money. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or simply tell a friend about the show, because that would help us out a lot too. If you're an industry expert and would like to be considered as a guest for the show, email guest@smellslikemoneymedia.com. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the topics you'd like to talk about, and we'll be in touch. For more information about our family of marketing, international business development, and workforce training companies dedicated to the empowerment and education of our industry, call us at 760-217-8010 or email me at raven@creativeraven.com. Until next week, a big shout out to all my industry friends and those who will be. You're my superheroes.